Hello, everyone. My name is Jorrel Santo Tomas, co-founder of Mintplex, here with my co-founder, Mr. Timothy Karambat. And this is the 7th episode of the Mintplexity podcast. I think it's the 7th episode. I'll have to double check.
There was a hiatus. Yeah, there was a hiatus for a minute. So
yeah, and that hiatus was definitely needed for a lot of reasons. One being just after we posted our episode, basically the entire crypto world was turned over its head with the whole FTX crashing moment. So there's been a lot of exodus. Like, for example, one of the strongest backers of NFTs, Mark Cuban, has fully left the space, which is crazy to think about. And Alameda Research and FTX are currently crumbling as we speak, with lots of lawsuits and etc. going around, a lot of companies shutting down, whatever it may be. But that's not why we're doing a podcast today. We have some more relevant things in the NFT world that we'll be going over.
People can go and get that FTX. There's like 5,000 fucking people making a video every 10 minutes about the FTX stuff. If you want to get that information, you don't get it from us. Just go get it from the 10,000 other people trying to disseminate it.
Yeah. The only thing you can ask from us is we'll probably share the links of SBF sex tape when it comes out. No, I'm just kidding. Jokes. Definitely has something we want to support.
That was such a weird thing on Twitter for a while. Like, what the hell was that all about? Like, it was just like a rumor. Like, it's not even true, but like, that is so weird. Like, who even started that? Like,
I mean, it's just one of those things where like, once they found out who the CEO of Alameda Research was and stuff like that, it's typical just like misogyny from the internet.
I guess so. Well, it's one of those things where like everything about the FTX collapse was so ridiculous that just sprinkling that little tidbit in was just as plausible as everything else that had happened. Like,
yeah, I mean, we don't need to even go into details of like how messed up all the things that Sam has done in regards to even their methodologies around how they constructed FTX.
Yeah.
Like I said, again, there are a million videos. We're not here for that, but we do want to emphasize that we're basically insulated from this whole incident.
Affect us at all.
Didn't affect us at all. We don't use FTX. Thankfully, we don't. We were this close to using them a few months back.
It's true.
But it does affect the entirety of crypto as a whole. And honestly, we won't know how bad the effects are until all the liquidation events occur in the next month or so.
So the contagion is like absolutely settled. We'll have no idea. Because like there's a whole bunch of companies right now that people thought were essentially bulletproof that now are, reaching insolvency, like BlockFi and stuff like that. Like,
which is crazy because we literally, I went to an event that was hosted by BlockFi not too long ago. So to think that like they'll be gone, that's crazy to think about.
I mean, it is. I mean, that's how the space just evolves. I mean, what's true today can't be true tomorrow. I mean, the space moves far too quick for literally anyone to even keep grips with. If you leave it for a week, like, forget about it.
Yeah, it's hard to catch up. Like, I was like, for listeners out there, I was trying to come up with stuff to like write for a newsletter and even for like another podcast. And I was like, I don't know how I'd fit any of this. And also because every single day something new happens, I'm like, well, do I even bother posting this? Because this news is so irrelevant now because this was like week's, freaking news. And now that we have more updates on that news, it's like, well, do I even bother? Because like more news is going to trump all of this. So once things settle down, maybe I'll start putting out the newsletter again. But like, God, there's just too much. There's just too much stuff. Like I can't even catch up. And then don't even get us started with Twitter being the way it is now. Like Twitter's been a fiasco since the acquisition too. So
or the royalty stuff, which is now starting to shake out.
That's even worse. That's been on our mind. Royalty stuff has been on our mind for the last 3 weeks. And I mean, you went on your Paris trip. So by the way, for those out there, Tim went out to for a mini vacation to Paris. His favorite baguettes.
Dude, the bread hits different there. The bread is definitely different.
Must be the water or something over there. Who knows, man?
I don't know.
But before he left, all this stuff with OpenSea's royalty registry,
Jesus
literally
Christ.
leading up to the day Tim had to fly out, we had all these freaking issues with OpenSea.
Everyone
releasing
did.
It.
Manifold did. Bueno did. Everyone was having problems with it.
Yeah. To listeners out there, Tim, can you explain exactly like what went down and just how messed up it was? How often they changed the code?
Yeah. So, okay, basically OpenSea was trying to figure out a way of implementing what they're calling a registry. It's like a filter registry. Essentially, all this is on ETH, Polygon, pretty much any supported network. But they started with just ETH and Polygon. They basically maintain a list on the blockchain of like, hey, your NFT contract is registered with this filterer. If it is registered with OpenSea's filter, you can update your creator fees on OpenSea. If you're not, you can't update them. They won't let you collect royalties. If it is, this list essentially just checks if someone's going to send an NFT or if someone's going to approve one for sale, are they doing it on a smart contract that is associated with a marketplace that does not respect royalties? That's literally all it is. It is just a block list. That is all it is. It's just a block list on the blockchain. And so this was an interesting solution because it puts OpenSea in the middle of everyone's projects, because they now are the arbiter of marketplaces that can or cannot trade royalties. If a competitor were to come up, OpenSea could just be like, well, if everyone that's implementing our registry can no longer trade on this marketplace because they're our competition, right? Like that is a dystopian eventuality. I think it's an eventuality that it'll occur. Right now, they're like, oh, no, we're only doing it for marketplaces that don't honor royalties. I think I see this thing as more cloak and dagger, as like, oh, we're going to put it as a goodwill, and then later we're going to use it as a weapon to maintain superiority. Because the reason that they have this is basically, as a creator, you launch an NFT project, you can't collect royalties right now unless you use this tool. The majority of volume is still on OpenSea, so most people wind up having to implement this chunk of code, and Mintplex has implemented it, and we implemented it literally the day I left. The reason that we had to do it the day I left, I was literally in the airport and we pushed this change because all throughout this time, OpenSea was talking about, oh, we're going to try out this OpenSea registry thing. And then 2 days later, it was like, oh, okay, everyone's going to have to use it. And then a couple of days later, it was like, okay, no, never mind. We're not going to have that happen. And then it was like, okay, in 4 days, this was also like number 13 in a fucking tweet thread. They were like, also in 3 days, all new projects are actually going to have to use this. All old projects are fine. And it was like, literally, who is sitting there watching OpenSea's Twitter all day? We certainly aren't, because I don't that's not our company. Like, I don't give that much of a shit about them. And so users came to us being like, hey, why can't I use the creator filter or the creator payout address anymore? And so we go and look into it. Turns out OpenSea, with no warning, was just like, yeah, like we just got rid of that. We just started banning that. And so there were some workarounds around that. We released a YouTube video to allow people to do this for legacy contracts. But yeah, what a disaster, though. But now also today, what, December 2nd? Yeah, today they tweeted that, oh, every single network, which is all the networks that Mintplex works with, you will have to add this registry, or on January 2nd, all projects going forward will no longer be able to do the creator registry again. Again, this was a tweet that happened at some arbitrary time in the day. If you weren't on Twitter at the time, the algorithm isn't going to show it to you. And even the most laughable part is that policy change is buried in the README, and it was updated 9 days ago, and they just tweeted about it today. So that policy has been something that they were going to execute as of more than a week ago, and they just bothered to tweet about it today. Like, this is the kind of stuff that makes it impossible for launchpads like us and for independent developers to just stay on top of what the hell they need to know in order for the just simple royalties to get paid out for OpenSea. It's a goddamn disaster. And today, Magic Eden released their solution, which is just pretty much the Solana equivalent of what OpenSea did, using these SPL tokens that allow you to basically unilaterally freeze someone from trading on a different marketplace, which again, also probably not a very great solution. Marketplaces though are doing what you would expect. They're trying to, maintain their monopoly, I guess, or maintain their position in the market by inserting themselves in the middle of every project. So, yeah.
I mean, to give some dates for your whole explanation, just so that listeners out there can understand just how tight these decisions were made. They literally released on November 6th an article on their site that said, hey, we're going to be enforcing all the royalty stuff on November 8th. That was 2 days. They gave people 2-day notice. And mind you, think about like people who aren't using a launchpad, who are developing these contracts on their own, like doing their own Solidity. They literally in 2 days would have to go onto the OpenSea registry code, figure out how the hell it works, implement it, test it. Otherwise, in 2 days, their code will not be able to edit like creator fees. So it's like so it creates this like whole like really testy situation where like independent developers, launch pads are forced to encourage their users to literally just use OpenSea's Seaport, because that's like the only thing that would have been, solidly
which Seaport isn't even that great because it doesn't have any of the features that even your run of the mill Launchpad has. Like they don't even have simple features like that. And again, also makes your project part of OpenSea essentially. They're like, oh, it's decentralized. Oh, whatever. It's like the biggest gripe I have about it is that they shoot out this code snippet. They say add it to your contract. Don't tell you how it works at all. And also don't tell you the proper implementation for 721 or 1155. It's stuff
they just
like
say
that.
Add this in there somewhere. And it's like,
and they don't tell you how it'll work or what it'll do. The comments are honestly kind of piss poor. And basically the way that it works for people to know is when you deploy your contract, it will basically register your contract with the filter registry, even if you don't have it enabled. So like, let's say you want to start default off, like you don't want to subscribe to their registry, your contract still registers with this OpenSea registry, regardless. And then if you do use their filter registry, it registers your contract and subscribes it. Now you have the ability to go and unregister your contract, but the only way to do that right now is to go directly to the registry contract on Etherscan, connect your wallet, and hope to God that you know what you're doing to unregister your contract from their registry. Like, it's just like, there's no interface. OpenSea did not provide an interface for people to be able to go and check if their contract is registered, to unregister it, or to not subscribe to their filter. It is up to the dev to do that. And it's like, the majority of people launching projects are not launching them through a developer. Like that's just the truth. Most people are using launchpads, and those people still need to be just as informed as the technical audience. And right now, OpenSea did not make an effort to even bother to do that. It's very frustrating.
Yeah, and the crazy thing too is by the way, so this is November 8th, right? That they enforce, and Tim and I had no idea, because 2 days later, November 10th is when they tweeted out, "Oh yeah, guys, just kidding. We're not going to do the royalty stuff until December." But there's no clear communication
on that.
There's literally no clear communication. They're like, "Oh yeah, we're not going to do this stuff anymore on the 10th." So like Tim and I thought we were in the clear. Then lo and behold, another 2 days later, November 12th, user says, "Hey, I can't edit any of our creator fee stuff." And we're just like, "What the heck?" They literally said they were going to not do that anymore. And then we go back to the dates and everything, and we go into the blog, and the blog is like, "Oh, well, what we actually meant to say was that like old contracts won't be respected by December 8th or something like that." That's just like, yo, like you cannot, especially because all these people are taking these statements as being the official statements from OpenSea. Like you can't lag 4, 5, 6 days later after an implementation, because then all of these devs, all of these launchpads have already built these entire like flows specifically for whatever it is that they said in the past. And what's crazy too, and I told you this when as you were flying away, right? I was like, "Oh, dude, Manifold hasn't even fixed it." Because
and also Manifold built their own registry specifically for this, and OpenSea said, "Nah, fuck that," and built their own instead. And it's like, what is the purpose of like even people like Manifold building these standards and building these things that do objectively work? And then OpenSea just being like, nah, fuck that. We don't control it, so we don't want it. And it's like,
and OpenSea built Manifold's registry with them. Like, it was a partnership between Manifold and OpenSea.
It's such a joke.
It's like, what is going on? Like, why are you guys not? I don't know, dude. I honestly, I just wouldn't run things that way. Like, even for us, whenever we implement a new feature, we literally tell people a day, 2 days, 3 days in advance, like, hey, this is coming up. We tell those in like whoever's left in our Discord. We tell that to the Twitter, tell that to any of the groups we're part of, especially our partners. You know, even people that like, we're not really close partners with, we still tell them about these changes that might affect them. Like, communication is so key, especially because things in Web3 change so fast. You like 6-7 days are fine if you were building like a data tool, or if you were like a Web2 company and you were like, oh, hey, we're changing, you know,
a policy or whatever. Yeah.
We're changing our pricing, for example, right? Like, we got that render email yesterday. Like, that's great. You know, like that's totally fine. But like in Web3, 3, 4, 5 days, 6 days, like, this is a 24/7 market. You cannot be doing this to like, you can't be doing this to your users. Like, you know, or they can also, because like, they know they can, but
it'd be great if they just had like a newsletter where it's just like, oh, like, I'm a developer, so like, just keep me in the loop on that.
Yeah, just subscribe. You know? Like, oh, hey, I'll subscribe to this, but they don't. They literally don't.
No, it's just like, oh, I hope you're on Twitter. Like, that's literally it. What about people who aren't? You know, there are people, believe it or not, in crypto not on Twitter, or not on it 24/7. That's for damn sure. So, yeah. Anyway, that was very frustrating. And so that is solved now. But yeah, that will be probably a continuous frustration that probably continues on. I'm still adamant that royalties for generative projects just need to go away, because that's not the model that's not a sustainable business model, which is what generative projects are trying to build, is businesses. One of one artists deserve their royalties. It's one of one art. That's how it works in the real world. You know, like, you have a unique painting and it gets traded. Yeah, it's great that the artist still gets royalties for that. That's awesome. But for generative projects like your Bored Apes and stuff like that, I just don't see them needing royalties. They should have a more sustainable model to keep their community and build stuff for their community. Like, just doesn't make sense. But
I completely
people
agree
still
with you.
want their royalties. People just still want their royalties because they can't see beyond that. So.
Yeah, and I think the other problem, I think, is, once again, even OpenSea has a completely different word for it. They call it creator fees. They're like, that's not royalties, it's creator fees. And so it creates this like weird, like double vocab where it's like they're referring to royalties as creator fees, but they're still royalties.
They're paid exactly the same.
In like on OpenSea, like it still implies it's royalties, but it's called creator fees. And then you go to any other marketplace, they call it royalties, and then it's listed. It's just like, don't invent words. Like, just call it what it is, which is that people are getting a cut of literally every single sale, which is, once again,
that's a royalty. That's a royalty.
Like,
I
don't know. It's like, it's way too much. And like, OpenSea's trying to do the whole like Google thing where it's like, oh, we're inventing new words so that people like it's like, no, like, what you guys are doing is isolating what people have been using in these spaces for fucking years.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, you trying to invent new words for this stuff. It's just like isolating your users, isolating a lot of folks. And like, honestly, not to say, like, OpenSea just has such a strong hold on the current market that, like, right now, like, people still think that it's the de facto, but sooner or later it's going to lose its dominance. Like, there's way too many other marketplaces popping up. And then, you know, speaking of which, like, Magic Eden is like, you know, they're making their transition to ETH and Polygon more strongly than ever.
Yeah.
Not because we hate Solana or anything, but probably because Solana's dying. And same with even Phantom, right? Even Phantom, the wallet.
Phantom now adopted Polygon and ETH in their wallet, which I think is, they said that, oh, it's always been our intention to support Ethereum and Polygon and be a multi-chain wallet. But it's like, I wonder if they have seen a decrease in usage and that drove their product roadmap to be like, oh shit, like, we need to adopt that. Because that's exactly what happened with Magic Eden. They were purely Solana. OpenSea adopted Solana, and Magic Eden was like, oh shit. And so then they started to try to fight back. by adopting Ethereum and Polygon. It's like, I mean, the world in the future is a multi-chain world. So it doesn't make sense to build something that's only supports a single chain. We have never been single chain, actually, since literally V001. We have never been multi, because we live in a multi-chain world. I mean, we've talked about this before. Every blockchain has a specific use case, something that it's really good at. We should not restrict people based on whatever their desires are. They should just be able to use us. So
Absolutely. And that's the thing, right? Is that like we talked, I think 2 or 3 episodes ago about like wallet solutions and everything. At the end of the day, right? Like the wallet functions as like a bank account. It's essentially your bank account, which is why you should have a hot wallet, a cold wallet, and a, multi-sig or some sort of like Vault wallet.
Something.
Right?
Yeah.
Tangentially, but just, a suggestion to all those listeners out there that are, getting into this. Like, yes, there are 3 different types of wallets you should have. Treat it like a fucking bank account. OK, but like ultimately, if you're treating it like a bank account, or if you're treating it like, a vault, you're going to have a lot of different things in this vault. Right.
Yeah.
And so you probably should have a wallet solution that supports all of those things. Like if you're only restricting it to several different types, I mean, it really hinders like the things you can do when the wallet is literally your identity in the blockchain. Like simplicity is key, but also like that flexibility is super important because like at the end of the day,
I mean, also think about it like when you have a bank account, you typically have like a checking, savings, and investment.
Exactly.
Investment being like maybe one that most people don't have, but it's something that eventually if you go by, the pillars of financial wisdom, you should have that as well. I think in the future, like I also think like imagine a MetaMask where you have the hot wallet, that's the thing you connect with, and then you have a savings account that stores the majority of your stuff, and then you could have a multi-sig that is maybe for like perma storage kind of stuff, like it could be NFTs or whatever. You can also get a ledger.
Yeah.
I mean,
ledgers are. I don't want to shit on ledgers, but like we couldn't even convince the majority of users around the world to like store their passwords on a fucking.
We couldn't get them to use 2FA. We couldn't get them to use 2FA. I don't think that ledger market is as big as people think it is.
Yeah. So and multi-sig is glorified 2FA. So that's the reason you're seeing like little adoption, dude. It's pretty bad. But that being said, like once again, users out there, be vigilant about, just thinking about all those things that these companies are supporting. We're trying to avoid centralization as much as possible. But like I say to a lot of folks, decentralization is not the same as uncentralization. OK, we are decentralizing. That does not mean we're removing centralization. OK,
right.
So like a lot of people, especially those in, the Web3 maxis in this space, they're so particular about like, oh shit, like we need every single thing to be a DAO. We need every single thing to have governance. We need every single like it's like, like that's too much. But then at the same time, we can't have those FTX situations where it's like
exactly
hyper centralized. They've
run by people that are completely incompetent, apparently.
Yeah, dude, making my school look bad, dude. Like, holy cow, their head of engineering being like a Cal grad that like I actually have mutual friends with. It's kind of like, to me, it's just like too real. I'm just like, yo, like, like
should have went to a no-name school in South Louisiana. But you never get a bad rep. Most of my college graduates are they own roofing companies. So,
hey man, speaking of roofing. Let's talk about staking, Tim, because this is something that's super.
How's that even relevant?
It's not. It's not relevant.
What a weird segue. Yeah.
Speaking of roofing, let's talk about staking. Well, because like when you're roofing, you're staking your life against the elements.
Yeah, there you go. Okay,
that's how we'll do that.
That's true. That's how we'll justify that. Then that's how we'll justify that. Yeah, dude, the staking stuff has been, we've said this before. I know we have, where we don't implement staking because we don't want to accidentally put our users in prison for securities violations. Even though there is that's also the problem, is that there is no good like legal like structure or like clear definition for what is or isn't allowed in crypto right now, because they're just dragging their feet on it, to be completely honest. There's no direction there, but you and I have always been adamant, just from like, what we hear from lawyers in this space that know about crypto is like, yeah, that's going to be securitized. Like that's going to be a problem. And so we were just like, okay, yeah, we'll just stay away from it in general because we just don't want to contribute to that problem. Like I would feel actually really horrible if one of our users launched with us and then is now being hunted down by the SEC because of a securities violation and they used our tool to do that. Like that would be fucking horrible. Like I would not like that at all. And ApeCoin, they were going to implement staking. And why are they implementing it? Because everyone that holds it, without considering any of the ramifications, I'm sure there was a small minority who were, but the majority of people are like, we want staking. They don't know why they want it and they don't know what it will do, but they do know that it will earn them more ApeCoin and that's all they care about. And so like that was kind of, in my opinion, one of the problems with governance is like you have a whole bunch of people driving decisions on something that they do not realize is shooting themselves, not in the foot, in the head. And yeah. And so now what was it? Horizon Labs built the front end, or it's going to be live when? December 5th. Yeah, December 5th.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so on December 5th, the front end will be live. It will be banned in the US because of securities concerns. That's actually, they say that on the website. And so, yeah, I think, what is it? apestake.io. Yeah. If you go to that website in the US, you will not be able to visit it because you are restricted. It is because if they allow a US resident to do it, they become liable, I believe, for that problem. I don't know. I'm sure there would be a lawsuit that would define that. But yeah. And then they had that person that's based in SF that built one because it's just a smart contract. They just built a front end that just simply isn't using Cloudflare's, geolocation banning, which I think is going to wind up making them they're going to get in trouble if anyone uses their front end to do this stuff.
If I recall correctly, Yuga is it's based here in the US, right?
Yeah.
I think they incorporated here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like that's also why too is like they literally cannot.
And
Delaware,
a smart contract.
They're Delaware C Corp. Yep.
Yeah. And that smart contract has no idea where a request is coming from. There's no way of the smart contract to know, oh, this is the front end that called me. That's not how that works. The blockchain can't read the internet. So there's no way for the smart contract to be like, oh, okay, hold on. That's coming from a US based IP. Like, don't allow that. That's not possible in crypto. It frankly won't ever be possible. But yeah, anyone who builds a front end for this stuff is going to wind up in hot water if they're based in the US because of these securities problems. I'm waiting to see how that's going to shake out because what's going to happen is nothing's going to happen for a while. And then all of a sudden they're going to send like 50,000 subpoenas to a whole bunch of people running front ends and that did staking and they know they're in the US. Don't think that you're immune from it. Like they will know. All they have to do is subpoena Infura, to see if you were making RPC calls and your IP was based in the US because Infura is now tracking the IP stuff. Like people think, oh, it's decentralized. Like I can just like use it for my wallet and send a request and like I'm kosher. No, you're not. And yeah, so yeah, that's what's going to happen. It'll be really quiet. And then all at once, a bunch of people are going to get served a giant subpoena.
Yeah, I think violations. I think the root problem with all this stuff regarding, the staking and all these things is I think a lot of people don't take the SEC seriously. And primarily it's like during the GME squeeze, right?
I mean, they're a joke.
Like that was just like crazy. And then also like, Mr. Elon Musk just always challenges the SEC to like, come try me, bro. And they know they're not going to because like if the SEC does something, it's going to tank like half the market, if he goes after these types of individuals. But crypto is fair game. You're not fair immune. Game. Like the stock market is not affected like ultimately by you getting shafted by crypto. Like
and they would be happy to do it. I mean, literally, like I think when the like kind of like rule that the SEC is kind of eventually going to fall into when it comes to crypto and people doing these securitization practices is FAFO. Fuck around, find out. because the SEC is like, they're kind of, in my opinion, like any government agency, they're not going to make a move until they know they have enough to convict. Right. And so they're going to let this stuff happen, and then they're going to start sending out subpoenas, and it'll be too late for everybody that contributed. Yeah, like, so if you're going to participate in ApeCoin, only market buy and market sell. If you stake and you're in the US, I would not bet your financial future on getting away with it. So.
Yeah,
I mean, that's not even financial advice. That's just, I'm not even a lawyer. Like, I can't even say not financial advice. That's just like literally like they already told you that will happen. So if you do it, straight to jail. So.
And also, once again, I've said this since 2015. Like, you are not as anonymous as you think you are. Like, you can do all the VPN stuff. You can do all these things. But at the end of the day, no matter what type of emails you're using or what it may be, like,
doesn't matter.
They will get you, because the only crime in the United States that they will use all their powers to take you down is financial crimes.
Yep. They will pull out all the stops to make sure that $600 purchase, that they can fine you for that. They will pull out all the stops. But like, if you collapse a $32 billion, decentralized exchange. What? Huh? What's going on? What are you talking about? Who is FTX? They don't care about that.
Yeah.
But if you so much as stake a single cent of ApeCoin, it's going to be like that meme where like the SWAT team like blows up the door and they fucking like are coming through the ceiling. Like, that's going to be your house in like 30 days time. Like,
once again, it's like that risk. It's the risk opportunity type thing, right? It's like, it's so low hanging fruit for them because it's already a 15,000% return if they come after you, right? But like for these $32 billion decentralized exchanges like FTX, like there's no return, there's only loss.
Red tape. There's also red tape. It takes too much time, and like, how am I supposed to get a promotion at the IRS, when I'm not when I'm not bagging criminals,
Exactly.
So.
It's a numbers game. Like, I don't think people realize it's a numbers game. So, but that being said, right, like we're vehemently, and I think we've stated this since our first podcast episode, we will never implement staking. So stop asking for it, whether it be NFTs, whether it be for the ERC20s. We're not going to. And even if we do, we're not going to be allowing you to do it in the way that you're wanting to do it. Right.
Yeah.
Like, there's not going to be high returns. We're going to be limiting a lot of things to the base functionalities that are most useful for the use cases that are involved. Like, for example, staking is really useful if you're making a game. Right?
You're making
doing in-game rewards, all that type of stuff. But once again, it's very isolated. It's a very isolated economy. It's not going to affect everything else. You can't price gauge, et cetera, right?
Yeah, can't speculate.
You can't speculate. And that's really the key thing here is like anything that's related to speculation, Mintplex is not going to have anything to do with it. Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah, sorry, not sorry, but we are literally preventing you from going to jail. And I'm sure you're probably saying, well, what if I'm in a country that's not in the US? Well, okay, that's a valid concern, but you have to go find somebody else to do it. We still won't do it. I mean,
you're free to use our smart contract, but you just won't. We're not going to provide the contract for that type of we just don't support it, and we're never going to. And stop asking us because we still get questions about it, and we know you're trying to scam. We know you're trying to scam. Like, don't pretend like we're dumb or something. Like, when you think you're being sneaky about like, oh, hey, like we really want to see if we can do this staking thing. It's like, dude, we know.
We know what it's like because we know when the people who are trying to build like games are talking to us, and we know when the people who are trying to do it to try to pump up the price of their project artificially. Like, we have launched like thousands now of projects. Like, you think we haven't seen every single freaking game, like every kind of play in the book? We've seen all of it. Like, it's not getting past us. So stop. So all we're trying to say is just stop. Okay. We don't want to hear any of it anymore. We're trying to protect you from yourself. Now, that being said, though, we have seen a lot of people outside the US, pretty much business as usual. Like, FTX stuff doesn't faze them. Any kind of crypto volatility, like, they just don't care. Like, it's just business as usual. And they are just continuing to launch projects, build communities, mint, like like, good for them. They're totally isolated. And I think that's an important thing that maybe a lot of even investors in this space don't realize is, well, they probably do realize that, actually. I'm very confident they do. And it's that the US media drives the sentiment on crypto in general, but there's a very real kind of like income opportunity outside of the
use
US.
case. It's really just use case. Yeah.
It's really use case. I mean, the Turkish lira just recently, what was it, like 750% inflation? You know, like that's an unusable currency. You make 0.25 ETH. Yeah. In the US, maybe most people would be like, chump change. You know, that's not chump change when your dollar just deflated 750%. You know, that's not chump change. And so there is still a very real use case for earning crypto, building these kind of communities that can continue to earn someone an income. Like, there's a very real thing going on there. And I think a lot of people really sleep on that. We're looking to add language support for a lot of these non-English speaking countries because it's just important that we service them in the best way possible.
And to that point, Tim, I think a good thing for other listeners to make a note of is something that we wrote about actually months ago, which is crypto is global. All right. The US is like a small little bubble in this huge expanse that you call Earth. Right. And the thing is, the reason that we're not seeing a lot of other companies really focusing outside the US is because the opportunities to make money is so minimal. Like for us, the mainnet deployments that we get, which is the reason we turned off the 5%, is we're launching a lot of projects, but they're only making 1 ETH. They're only making 0.5 ETH. But it's life-changing money for someone who's in Morocco who only makes like $17,000 a year or something. Like, was it $17,000 or $20,000 a year?
I thought it was less than that. That was like 7,000.
Yeah, there you go. 7,000, like friggin' even less, right? So 1 ETH is like 3 months of their paycheck.
Just chilling. And that's not an unusable currency because there are, some of our YC cohort companies told us like how people in like Latin America offboard crypto. It's like just going to a 7-Eleven, you know, kind of.
Yeah, they're Bitcoin ATMs. People just go, they exchange their Bitcoin for like usable peso. Then they like convert it back to Bitcoin when they just want to store it back. Like it's literally a bank. There's no Coinbase, a literal bank account. No Coinbase.
And I think like that is a huge opportunity. Is that crypto is a usable currency in a lot of other places that have just people that want the economic opportunity, you know, that need the economic opportunity. Like they're incentivized to do it. So it's like, I don't know. That's something that we definitely are leaning more towards because like US sentiment and stuff like that, you know, US sentiment is bullish while you can make money. Right. But outside the world, that is a livelihood opportunity. Mm-hmm. You know, outside the US, I mean, like the rest of the world, that is a livelihood opportunity. It's a good thing. It's a great thing, honestly.
Yeah. And that's also why we emphasize too, for all the builders that are listening, think bigger than the US. Like the US is a great place to get funding. It's a great place to test your ideas, to really push the envelope in regards to innovations. But when we're building infrastructure, when we're building long lasting solutions, it's going to affect the world. It's not going to just affect the US. So
you got to start somewhere, you know, you got to build an audience, you know. So.
And like, even for us, like we're not making as much as we were during than we were in the bull run, but we're still consistent. Yeah. I mean, who is really, but but we're still consistent. And that's really the key thing there is that we know that it's a needed solution because we're still being used by those outside of the US space and by those, you know, trying to, you know, make a name or claim for themselves.
Accessible. We're accessible. Just if you have an internet connection, you can use us. Yeah. That's a global thing. So,
So anyways, with that, Tim, is there any other news you want to, you know, share about Mintplex or anything before we close off this episode?
I'd say that some of the stuff that we're looking at doing in the future is specialty contracts. So these are contracts that do a specific function. Like, for example, like we should be supporting soon 0x splits. They have basically a contract type that you can inherit that that allows people to like share royalties and income from a project. So that's a specialty contract. It'll be something we can offer and generate for people and give them a dashboard and a mint button and all that stuff. Subscribable ERC 721S that we're going to be deploying soon. You'll be able to have a subscribable NFT collection. It won't be your standard 721. It'll be a specialty contract that you can deploy with us. And so we're looking at offering more of those like actual use cases, not like, I guess you would say, gimmicky. There's a lot of different smart contract standards out there, or things you can do or implementations. We want to keep it as use case like focused as possible. It's like, okay, we know people do this in real life. It's not something we're trying to make up that you should do on the blockchain. So, and then also the metadata tool, because oh my God.
All questions I get these days.
I don't know what's been going on in the space, but people have, I guess, finally turned the corner of figuring out that like the way NFTs work is the metadata, the token tracking and like, permissioning is all on chain. And the websites that you visit like OpenSea are just reading the blockchain, but they're also reading this crucial metadata that is posted centrally or on IPFS. That is the glue in which an image is associated with a blockchain token. That image is not on chain 99% of the time, maybe even more than that, 99.9% of the time. Most of the time, it's on IPFS. And the problem with IPFS, while being great because it's decentralized, is you cannot modify stuff. And that seems to be a very big problem because many people want to be able to update their tokens on the fly. Like, oh, token 555, I want to give a trait because I forgot, right? Instead of having to go through the process of redoing your metadata, blah, 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 we're going to be providing an interface that allows you to just see that token, make the change, click save, done. And then it'll pop up on OpenSea. So like we want to provide that for people because this metadata stuff, having people go through IPFS is great. It's been awesome. But as far as like people, what they actually need is an easy way to change this information, make it dynamic. And so that's what we'll be building soon.
Yeah. And that's the thing, right? Is that for all y'all peeps out there who want to do dynamic NFTs, and even you Chainlink, if you ever see this, where you want like to add the VRF stuff. Yes, this is where it'll happen. Like your dynamic NFT stuff, it'll happen here. Like, there you go. Like your wish is finally happening.
That tool doesn't exist. It's weird. Like this tool doesn't exist.
It's just like, who wants to host it, right? Like for us,
we'll do it.
for us, I mean, like, you have like two different things, right? Where it's like you have one where it's centralized metadata, and then you have the other where it's like decentralized metadata, right?
Right.
And for us right now, we support decentralized. And if you know what the hell you're doing, we offer the advanced metadata, like IPFS URL thing. Like they can go in and just copy and paste. That part, a lot of developers know how to do. It's an API. You just friggin' set the API, and then once those things are called, as long as it's like one or one.json, you got your stuff, right?
Yeah.
That's why people don't want to do it. It's because it also still takes developer resources, and also a lot of people just don't have the Launchpad part. That's what I think. I think really you have to be a Launchpad to understand why this is useful. Otherwise, like even if you're a developer, why the heck would you need a metadata manager? Just like, it's just not that.
Yeah. Also, people don't want to build it though, because then they have to host it, and then they have to maintain it, and then they have to do all this other stuff. And it's like, it's a lot more work to do dynamic NFTs. And so this makes it super easy. No code interface, just, type in some stuff and you're done. Click save, done.
Yeah. Well,
we live instantly.
We say it's simple, but we all know, all of y'all who are listening to this are going to make it complicated somehow. So we'll do our best.
People always have their specific use cases. Yeah. We're going to collect that feedback, and we're going to try and implement it the best we can. Same thing we did with Mintplex. Built a kick-ass product that way. We'll do the same with this.
Yeah. So great. Well then, Tim, as always, great to have these discussions with you in our public podcast. For all of you out there who don't follow all of our socials, follow us on Twitter, Mintplex NFT. Go to our website if you have any more interesting questions. Use our intercom chat bubble. No, we do not. We do have a Discord, but we're no longer adding new people. So it's too bad, so sad. Just ask us your questions on Intercom. Don't ask to ask questions. Just ask your question and we will answer it. Don't harass us on other social media channels. You know who you are. We will block you. We will fucking block you. I swear to God.
Just use Intercom. That is where we answer questions. It is not complicated. Please, we even say that on the Twitter, don't DM us questions, use Intercom. And also, please don't ask to ask. I know that seems polite, but really it makes it harder for us to give you a good answer from the get-go. You have a question, ask it. We can give you an answer right away. Don't worry about that. Just don't worry about asking to ask. You can say hi and then ask your question, but please be nice. Don't ask to ask and then wait for us to answer your question that you can ask a question. We wouldn't have Intercom on the site if we didn't want questions.
Exactly. Well put, Tim. Well put. And as always, like I said, YouTube, same thing at Mintplex. Just go there if you have any kind of curiosities about any new features we're launching or some other tutorials. Our YouTube channel, always useful. I mean, if you found this podcast, that's probably know about our YouTube channel. Always, test on testnet. I know Gorley is expensive. Not expensive, but hard to get back.
Not anymore.
Oh, not anymore?
Yeah, but it's hard to get it. No, it's hard to get it though, but yeah.
Oh, never mind. Well, I guess they fixed the gas issue, but you know.
It's not crazy anymore.
But make sure to test on testnet. As always, we support a lot of different chains. They all have their own testnets. Feel free to just do that. And if you have any questions about how we do our stuff, use our Intercom. And with that, thank you all so much for sticking around and listening. And we will talk to y'all in the next episode. So,
all right.
Peace.